people hardly ever do this in today's modern immediate gratification world. I really love to do a handwritten note, particularly if you guys have engaged a little bit, because it shows you we're willing to put time and effort into something like that. Now, the next week, the 8th week, you call them. In the 9th and 10th week, you email them again. Now, again, I've talked about this a lot already, but you want to come from a place of value. So what does value look like? Here's what I want you guys to realize. Or let me ask you a question, actually. Who else in this world knows as much about your business as you? Now, I'm not talking about comparing yourself here, saying that if you're in marketing, for example, there's not incredible marketers out there. Sure, there's always going to be people that are better at this, that, or the other than we are. But who knows more about your business than you do? I'm going to posit that nobody on this world knows as much as you do, okay? So assuming that's the case, because we all know it's true, you know the most, then you also know what kind of questions you're getting. Meaning, hey, I'm in marketing, or like that kind of like social media, it's a follow kind of world. So how often should I be posting on it, like Facebook or Instagram? How do I know if a campaign is successful? How much money should I be spending on ads? What does that kind of stuff look like? Should I be doing a whole bunch of like mailers and stuff, or do people really even do that anymore? Do people like look at that stuff, or they just throw it away? Is there any kind of return on it? Those are the kind of questions that if you're in that marketing world, you're probably getting a lot and getting often. And that's going to be true of every industry. If you spend more than 2 minutes in an industry, then you know the questions you're probably going to be getting. So I want you guys to answer those questions. Now, I love doing it in emails, especially where you're saying, hey, John, based on our conversation about marketing that we had at the networking event the other day, I thought this might be of value to you. Here's kind of my top 3 reasons to do X, or 3 reasons to do Y, or 3 things to avoid. That's just a free touch. Touch is what we call these kind of conversations, where you're not necessarily always going to be back and forth, meaning you might not even get a phone call back, right? But a touch just means that you have reached out to someone and they have seen your name, your number, your email, whatever, come across like their information, right? Like they have seen you come up in their life again. And all the consistency is really key here, okay? Now, let's say you meet somebody out again, you put them on the 10x10 plan, you call them, you email them, you text them, and over the course of that couple of months, you hear bupkis, you hear nothing. And you're like, I know. I was like, oh man, I thought that guy was going to be perfect. Guess he doesn't want it. I'm going to give up. Nope. We continue. My rule of thumb is I will follow up with you until you tell me you no longer want me to. And you tell me that, you have to tell me it, or one of us dies. Pretty simple rules, right? So you just keep following up. Now, if you know any like true salespeople out in the world, then all of us have stories or instances where like we met somebody somewhere, sometime, we followed up with them, we never heard from them, and then a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, they pick up the phone and said, hey, I'm so glad you called. I'm ready to do business. So that is the kind of thing that we are trying to build here, because that, again, is where the vast majority of business is earned, all right? So the 10x10, that's where I start people. Now, all of this, the big caveat here, I want you guys to all think about this and ask yourselves, how can I apply this to me? Because I can give you all the strategies in the world, all the solutions in the world, but if you apply none of them because none of them fit either what you're trying to build or you're just not going to do them, then it doesn't matter. So ask yourself, how can I apply this? How can I change this and make this my own? Now, an example of this is I was working with some folks, and they were, again, similar position where they were just trying to get into like some of the sales systems world. And we talked about the 10x10 plan, and they said, based on just kind of my clientele and what's been working for me, I think I'm going to do a 7x7, meaning that they're going to work, or they're going to reach out once a week for 7 weeks. Right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But again, the really key here is following up consistently. Staying in front of people is absolutely key. All right. So we follow up with somebody for 10x10, 10 times for 10 weeks, 7 times for 7 weeks, whatever the case might be. And then we hear nothing. We hear crickets. So what do we do now? Now we talk about what's called a drip campaign. It's the long-term campaign, meaning that we want to stay in front of people still, but we're thinking that this might be a longer term cultivation to try to earn some business, hopefully at some point. So now this next one, again, nobody run for the hills. It can be a little intimidating sometimes. It's called a 36 touch. Now I got this from my time in real estate, working for Keller Williams back in the day. Now this means that over the course of 12 months, we reach out 36 times. Now I know people are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to call somebody 36 times in 12 months? I'm going to be calling people all the time. They're going to be annoyed. I'm going to be annoyed. I don't want to talk to them that much. No, most of this is going to be emails. Okay. Now, a lot of us entrepreneurs and people with websites and just places of business have a newsletter, some variety of it, meaning that periodically, either bi-weekly, every week, once a month, we send out an email of some sort saying, here's what's going on in the world, in our world. So if you do that, let's say bi-weekly, that's 12, 24 emails, right? Cut. Let me do that here. A lot of people have newsletters. So if you do that twice a month for 12 months, that's 24 emails. So we're 2/3 of the way there to our 36 touches already. Now, I do very strongly, again, suggest calls, because in the hierarchy of communication, I mean, in person, face-to-face is going to be the best. And then phone calls come after that, because, again, it gives us that same human interaction. But, I mean, not as good, but still as close as we can get. So you call them once a quarter, every quarter. So that's four calls. And then you do a birthday card, if you can get that kind of information. And then maybe you do a wedding anniversary card. And then maybe you do some holiday cards or some holiday emails, those kind of things, having some events or something. There's a million reasons to reach out to people. Again, all of this is coming from value. But again, we want to make sure we're doing this consistently over the long term. Now, one of my favorite kind of touches I got from real estate again. Now, over the course, I live in Iowa, as some may or may not know. I live in Iowa, and shocking to nobody, Iowa gets cold in the winter. So when we were in real estate, towards the end of the year, and we're talking like September, October, once it starts getting colder again, we would reach out to everybody that we'd work with or everybody on our email list and say, hey, thanks so much for working with us this year. We're really great doing business with you. Make sure to unscrew your hose from your house and take all the water out of it, because it'll freeze and it will really mess up your plumbing, messes up your pipes, right? Now that's a free touch that it doesn't really require a lot of interaction. Saying like, hey, you want to do business with me again? But it's just a value add that's really simple and just helping people at the end of the day. Okay. Now, again, I mentioned it before, but it barely bears repeating, is find like the fun touches. Like those, like the birthday, the wedding anniversary, or like your business anniversary. Let's say you've been working with somebody for a long time, and every year on March 15th or whatever day, it's like, hey, it's our anniversary. We started working together 1 year ago. What are we going to do for our paper anniversary? Something just fun and goofy like that. It just lets people know that you are keeping them front of mind. Okay. Now, there's a big caveat to all of this stuff. So as I mentioned before, follow-up is a piece of the pie. It's a piece of what we're trying to build. Now, there's some other things that we have to have. Now, you have to talk about your messaging, meaning like, what are the things you're actually saying and how are you saying them? Another piece of this is your CRM. Now, that's a customer relationship manager, meaning you meet somebody out, you get their contact information. Where does their contact information live? If you're sending them emails, or maybe you're sending them automatic emails, as most CRM should be able to do nowadays, send them automatic emails, then where's all of that living? And let's say you have a great conversation on the phone and you say, hey, like, gosh, they really want to do business. They've got a lot of stuff going on right now. They want me to follow up here in a month. We want to talk about X, Y, and Z. Where do those notes live? If they're just like in your notebook, and that's okay to start. If they're in an Excel spreadsheet, again, that's a place to start. But as you continue to grow your business and your clientele, are you going to be able to manage something like that in an Excel spreadsheet when you have 100, 500, 1,000 customers and former customers? Probably not. So a CRM, that customer relationship manager, is absolutely key. Now, the other piece of this too is what happens when we talk to somebody on the phone and they say no. that's when rejection comes into play. And rejection is another really key piece to selling in general. Also, you have to develop a bit of a thicker skin to people telling you no, or why don't you get the freaking hell out of my office, man. There you go. We're done with this. Now, I mentioned a free gift. So we talked about follow-up a ton here today. All of these things are really important. It's probably a little bit too much that we can't get into right now, unfortunately. I'll probably do some more episodes about some of these other topics that I mentioned later on in the coming months. But I did build out a free gift for everybody listening today. It's called my Entrepreneur Sales Toolkit. So if any of this resonated with you, I would highly recommend you guys. It's a free download. It's a PDF that you guys can run through at your leisure. I've got I'll send you some emails to go along with it to help you support, understand more what's going on. But this is really something that I built because I was getting so many questions about all of these topics. So I put something together that everybody can hopefully use as a tool, both in the sense of like, hey, I'm trying to build out my follow-up systems right now, and how do I continue to grow my business over the long term? So I'll include that in the show notes for anybody listening. But thank you guys so much for following along on my journey. It really does mean a ton to me, and I will see you guys next time.